Welcome back, GSVA. This is video tutorial 3 of our digital Notan project. In this video, we're going to go over how to interact with our once photographs, images, now silhouettes, and begin to transform them so that we can arrange them in exciting ways on our Notan canvas. So let's get started. The first thing I wanted to point out here is you can notice I just have my document open and none of my other tools or windows are really available. If that happens to you, or if you want to minimize your screen and only have the tools you need, you can customize that by going up to the window and picking any of the palettes that you want to work with. So in this case, we want to work with our layers. So we'll bring that one up. Okay, there are our layers here. Your file should look something like this, each with a threshold, creating a stark black and white silhouette of your chosen images. Okay. I also want to show you a couple other windows that are really helpful. One, for example, that I like to have on hand is the history. History is essentially a log of all the moves that you make while you're working on your project. So essentially it's a time machine where you can go back several steps or forward several steps. And that can be very helpful in case you realize you make a mistake and you want to go back, or you want to save it one way in the future and have different versions, etc. So the last window that I think will be helpful, especially in this part of the project, is bringing up the navigator palette here. What the navigator is shows you your document that's full scale, but then has this slider here that allows you to zoom all the way out or come all the way in as far as you want. And that can be helpful as you're fine-tuning your design. There's another way to do that if you don't want to use the navigator and you want to use the keyboard. Holding the command button down and pressing minus will make it smaller. Pressing plus will make it bigger. And the always helpful one is command 0, which automatically makes your document sized to your monitor or your window. All right, so one thing that we need to do here that we forgot to do in the last step is that we need to merge these threshold effects with the layer. The reason for that is so that when we start to transfer it into a colored silhouette, it is just applied. So what we're going to do is select each one. I'm going to hold shift and select, so I'm selecting both of these. I'm going to go up to my layer and I'm going to select merge layers, or command E. I'm going to do this for each of my objects. Command E, and then again with tick that on, command E. The next thing that I need to do is, as you can see, some of my objects are really stark black-white. You can see some of the Thich Nhat Hanh and some of the Buddha, but especially this peace sign, if I was to select it and move it around, I really would have a hard time seeing that against the black. So what I need to do is put a color overlay over each of my layers so that I'm able to interact with them and see contrast against the background. This can be done using the layer styles or effects, where we can, with our layer selected, go to color overlay. You can choose any color you'd like. We just ask that you remain consistent just for a more minimal approach. So all of your objects, as you put color overlay over them, should be the same color. I've chosen this muted turquoise. So I'm going to say OK. Do that with each of my objects. FX, color overlay. OK. And might take that on too. X. Color overlay. Okay, so great. So now when I select any of these, my peace sign, I can see the shape as if it's laying on top of the black instead of disappearing beneath it. So at this point, what I'd like us to do is to bring each of our objects and stack them on top of each other in the center square. Notan, my peace sign. It's okay that we can't really make out what they are, because we can always use our eye tool to turn them on and off. Okay. So now what I want to show you is how to transform an object, first using scale. So I'm going to start with my peace sign. So I'm going to turn off my MLK Thich Nhat Hanh. And I'm going to come in, so I'm going to use this slider so that the black box is really nice and big on my screen. Okay, great. So with my layers selected, I can go up to the Edit menu, and I can come down to this Transform, where I have all sorts of options here between Scale, Rotate, Skew, Distort, Perspective. Just for the sake of ease, I'm going to have you choose Free Transform or shortcut Command-T, which will put this box around. So if I'm on my marquee here and I press Command-T, it'll put this box around. This will allow us to do rotation or scale. So if you can see the arrows go diagonal, that's going to allow me to, so I'm clicking and dragging, and it'll allow me to scale it down or scale it up, click and drag. Okay. So what I want to do here with my symbols is I want to get them so each one of them fits within one of these boxes without going over. I'm going to make it a little smaller, something around that. Okay, great. I'm going to get my Buddha, I'm going to turn that one off. Get my Buddha here. Command-T. Oops, I wasn't selected on my layer here. So when I pushed Command-T, it didn't do anything. So I have to make sure that my layer is selected when I do that. Command-T. Scale that down so I can fit it maybe in, we'll put it in this quadrant for now. It fits, but I could go maximize it as you can. So just there, okay. And I'm going to do the same, select that layer, turn it on, Command-T, scale this down. I'm going to move this over to here just by clicking and dragging it. All right. So now when I turn these on, they each fit within each of the quadrants. So you're probably wondering about this quadrant here and why it's blank. And I left it blank there because I wanted to add another element and invite you to consider doing this as well. I'm going to create a fourth object in here, but instead of sourcing it from a picture from the web, or I'm going to use the Type tool to put a letter in here. The letter I'm going to choose for my Notan is the letter M. Thich Nhat Hanh was well known for his introduction of what has now become household term, mindfulness, living a mindful life. And so I'm going to use the text tool here to place an M within this last quadrant. So what I'm going to do is with my text tool selected, I'm going to come to this box, I'm going to click and drag a square out. And I'm going to type the letter M. Well, let me pick my font first. Well, yeah, we'll just stick with this font, capital M. Okay, you've noticed that you can't see it, right? Because up top here, the color of the text is black, so we're not able to see it against that black. So just like in Google Docs or Microsoft Word, if If you go Command A to select all, you can then go and change the color. And just for consistency, if you go and hover over a blocked out color here, it'll select that color, and then you'll be all matched up. So I'm going to say OK, and there's my my M. Okay, cool. So I need to scale it up, so I could do I could go back to my move tool here, Command T, and start to drag it out. But that's not what I'm going to do. Instead, I'm going to go into my text box with its, oops, make sure you don't do that. Make sure that's selected. Select this, and now I'm going to make the font as big. It only goes up to 72, which to me is not big enough. So a cool trick here is that you can hold Command, and so I'm holding Command and I'm clicked and I'm dragging to the right, and it's making it bigger. Now I'm dragging to the left, it's making it smaller. So I'm just going to keep going. It's going to resize. I'm going to make it. Oops, I think I went a little too big. That's probably good. Okay. And that feels big enough to work with for now. So I can say, OK, deselect. And now I have all of my images fitting within my 4 quadrants quite well. So the next step in this process is to, well, it's a challenge really, and it's a design challenge, is that we have to take each one of our objects and having it one edge touching an edge of the black square without ever overlapping another one of the objects. This is where I'm going to introduce you to rotation, which is going to be helpful as you work. So I start with my Martin Luther King piece in terms of how to rotate. Or actually, let's start with our M here, because that one seems to be the one I want to rotate first. One thing I want to show you, because we're going to start to move these layers around, is that clicking over on each layer is going to start to become a little challenging. I just wanted to show you up here this auto select tab. Making sure that it's selected on layer, you can now click through each layer, and it will automatically switch on the layers panel. Very helpful. Okay, so I'm going to start with this process with my M here. After being rasterized, I'm now able, when it's selected and I have the Command T or free transform, you can use the free transform tool as we did before, and you can see how it gets to a curved arrow line. You could use this to turn your letter. You can also, I'm just going to go Command Z to get back to it straight. Do that. I actually want to turn this at a 90-degree angle on its side. So what I'm going to do is, with it selected, I'm going to go up to Edit, Transform, Rotate clockwise or counterclockwise. I'm going to go counterclockwise. And now I have a nice 90-degree instead of trying to guess. Another way you do that up here, you can fill in the data. So if I wanted to go -180, it would flip it that way. Whatever method works best for you. Okay. So now I'm going to place this object somewhere on an edge for now. Okay. And now I'm going to do this with each of my objects, and I'm going to start to play with it and try to occupy as much space as I can on this palette, so that, again, one edge is at least touching the side and none are overlapping. The zoom in tool becomes really handy during this. So if I come in here, if I hold space bar down, it'll allow me to move this over. bigger, coming close. You can see that I'm not perfectly touching the edge there. It's critical that you touch the edge exactly. So what I'm going to need to do is what I can use with it selected, I can use the arrow keys and it'll move it slower and slower. You can also, if you do shift, it'll move it in bigger increments. I'm going to bring it right up to the edge here, right there. Okay. And now I know that it's perfectly aligned. The old shift command, click and drag, it'll move it either horizontal or vertical or horizontal, depending on which one you do first. So that can be handy too. I'm going to get mine lined up. Oh, not quite there. Use the arrow keys to move it over, nudge it over just a little bit, and hit return and execute. So this is a really good time to remind us to save our work. I haven't saved in a while, and I don't want all of that work I've done to get lost in case of any sort of corruption or something of the software, or the power goes out, whatever. So I'm going to make sure I'm saving it, so Command S. And I'd like us to get into habit to time again press the Command S button to save your work. All right, so I'm going to do this with each of my objects, trying to get them into a design that feels interactive and fun. Okay, so as you can see, I've done a little work, and I've come up with a design that I'm kind of having fun with, and I think that will go well as we move on to the next step. So as you can see, all of my 3 objects, I can maybe make this M just a tiny bit bigger. You know, there's no rush in it. You can always refine and make your work stronger if you give it the attention it deserves. Okay. There you go. You've come to the end of tutorial number 3. In the next video, we will get more interactive and learn how to make our Notan design even more dynamic. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.